What's up, guys? Noah here from the Digibros, and today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the man, the myth, the legend, Edward Newgate Whitebeard himself. It's the brand new red deck outside of OP02 Paramount War. This is one of, if not the best deck of the format. Also going into the third set as well, it just gets even more support. This is going to be a really good deck. This is a deck you're going to see at a ton of your locals, at your really large events. This deck's going to be everywhere, so I'm just going to basically go through my deck profile and explain not only how to play the deck, but also for those who are playing against the deck, what to look out for, when's the best time to do certain things. Basically, just like I said, this is going to be one of the best decks. Look how handsome this man is. He's such a handsome man. I've been looking for this deck for a super long time. So let's just go over leader real quick and how extremely I don't think dangerous is the correct word, but how extraordinarily good he is. First off the bat, the two notable things are going to be that 6,000 base power and that 6 life. Those are the two stand-up things about Edward Newgate Whitebeard himself, because at the time of the recording of this video, and even within the current release of the Japanese cards, he is the only leader that has 6,000 power and has that 6 life. But his own effect does kind of mitigate that 6 life thing, really. Going over his effect, it is end of your turn, add 1 card from the top of your life cards to your hand. And so that is honestly a blessing, I guess that's the best way to put it, because red traditionally has always had the problem of maintaining hand advantage, and this just gets you 2 draws every turn. I don't care if I have no life if you can't beat me. It's really the main strategy of Whitebeard. He's really big. Your opponent has to commit at least 1 Dawn to swing into him, and so that's just one counter way. A lot of decks really can't afford to commit Dawn into the leader. They really rather set their fields and stuff. So a lot of times your opponent isn't even attacking into your leader, and so you're just maintaining this large hand presence, and then slowly you'll play your bigger characters, and it's really hard for your opponent to attack over them as well, because they're just so big, especially in the late game. Once Moby Dick is live, we'll get in Moby Dick, once we get to the stage cards within the deck profile. But yeah, so Edward Newgate, like I said, that 6k, 6 life, his effects getting you 2 draws per turn. Really good. So old Daddy Whitebeard up there. So we're going to go through the rest of the list. I know a bunch of us have probably seen Esther Jazz. I'm sorry, the Singaporean player who makes really great content. I'll link him down in the description. But he did have a Whitebeard deck list. I have seen a bunch of people online who modeled theirs off of. This one is fairly similar to that. I feel like most Whitebeard decks are going to be quite standard, because I believe Japan did really solve the deck, especially for the OP02 format. That being said, we're just going to go on and with it. So starting off, I am playing 2 copies of big ol' Daddy Whitebeard. This card, I don't know, it's a really good card, but there's also times where it's hard to justify dropping him. Next thing, he's got on play up to 1 of your leaders gains 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. Then you can add cards from your life using your own effects on this turn. And then he's got Donix 2 when attacking K up to 1 of your opponent's creatures 3,000 power less. So the Donix 2 when attacking is literally, he's just a big Robin. So he's going to be 12k attacking in the lead, popping their small blockers. That in itself is a really good effect. But then it's the on play, being able to make your Whitebeard leader here 8,000 power during your opponent's turn is so exceptionally strong, especially if you don't win on your following turn. If, your opponent doesn't beat you on the crack back and is back at you, and if you're not able to push life for game at that point, and you can drop a second Whitebeard, so it's just 8k on leader back-to-back turns is really, really powerful and strong. So I am playing 2 copies of him. He does not have counter power, obviously, because he is a really big boss monster. So you don't want to see a ton of them. Most of the games you play, you honestly don't even drop them. There'll be sometimes whenever you'll pitch them out of your hand off of the effect of Marco, which Marco is an excellent card. We'll get to him once again. So, like I said, this is a really good card, really strong card. Well, it's not part of the win condition. That's the best way to put it. There are some lists that play for this because they want to see it ASAP. They want to be able to drop it, do it like turn after turn after turn, just maintaining that pressure, maintaining that 8k life, make it really hard for your opponent to attack into. But that wasn't really the game plan I was like playing towards. So the 2 of them have really been pretty good for me. I dropped them when I needed them, and when I didn't, I would like pitch them off the effect of Marco. So next up for our next big guy, we do have 2 copies of Ace. So Ace here, once again, he is probably I don't want to say your boss monster, but he is like your like go-to like finish card. There's the amount of games I've won just by dropping this guy after your opponent has no life. You got Moby Dick up, swinging 9k for life, or if you drop him for 7, attach the remaining 3 Dawn, being almost 12, 10k or 12 with Moby Dick up on the field. Really, really strong. He can also give you some like defensive options because he does have on play, give up 2 of your opponent's characters minus 3,000, and then he does have rush. So being able to come in, do minus 3,000 to 2 of their characters, potentially like clear the board status whenever Ace and the Whitebeard being able to attack over 2 of your opponent's characters. Let's say they're relatively big. Let's say a drop kit, for example. Bring them down to like 5,000, so now they have to commit multiple cards if you're attacking into them with both Ace and Whitebeard. It's just really, really strong on that. So like I said, most time I do finish the games with him. Once you do get to the Ace, you really, for me personally, I like to like hold him. Once I hit that 7 Dawn, I usually don't drop him that turn. I like to hold him until, like I said, it's that final push, that final hurrah. But he does have some cool utilization. Like I said, he does get a minus 3k, so you can use cards like Seek Weight and Vista, which we will talk about once again later, to bring them in threshold range off of the Ace. So yeah, Ace, like I said, just having 2 of them, just being able to go for the game. Once again, he doesn't have counter power, neither does old Big Daddy Whitebeard here, and so really we want to like try to minimize the amount of cards in your deck that don't have counter power, because that is the main strategy of Whitebeard. You're trying to get down to 1 life or lower as fast as you can, just so you can protect them. And these really big characters, that's why we're not playing, you know, like 4 Ace, 4 Whitebeard, just because we can't, they don't have counter power. They can't be used to protect old Daddy Whitebeard. So I'm going to look at these next 6 together. It's going to be 3 and 3, both the King Dew and the Atmos. So the reason I'm playing 3 and 3, ideally you want to go second. That's your ideal. Like Whitebeard likes to go second. They like to go on turn, their first turn, be able to play Moby Dick, pass turn to your opponent, and you don't have to worry about playing it later. A lot of your stuff is going to be on the even curve, but a lot of players know that. A lot of players know that Whitebeard wants to go second. A lot of decks now also really want to go second. And so if you're made to go first on your second turn, you can't drop Atmos. But if you're going second and it's your second turn, you can't drop Atmos. So where if you're going first your second turn, you can't drop a big vanilla, because these are the only 2 big vanillas that we're playing. So you're forced to drop one on your 3rd turn when you hit that 5 Dawn threshold. That's where King Dew really comes in. And also they have really good stats, that 5-7 and the 4-6. With the Moby Dick, they will gain the additional 2,000, so 8k and 9k respective. And they also do have the 1k counter, which all vanillas got the 1k counter. So I just wanted to have, really I was trying to play like other cards. Like I said, I was trying to make room for 2 of each of the big guys, the big drops, the Ace and the Whitebeard. And so the space really had to come from somewhere. Most of the time you are swinging with old Daddy Whitebeard leader himself. But these are really just additional pressure tools. Very good. You can max out on both of these. They are very, very strong. I just didn't have the room. And like I said, I wanted to try to I wanted to have cards I could play from my hand on their perspective turn, on my perspective curve. So yeah, so that was the ratio for those. So next we're getting into really just the straight Whitebeard utility cards like Marco here. And we are playing 4 copies of Marco the Phoenix. Arguably one of the best cards within the deck. Old Marco here. He does have 1k blocker, 4-drop 5k. He's a blocker, and on KO if you're you may trash one card with a type from Whitebeard Pirates from your hand. If you have 2 or less life cards, you can play him back from your trash. So he just does not die once Marco hits the field. Ideally on curve, on turn, you're going to be on if you're going second, you're going to be on your 8th Dawn. It's going to be your 4th turn, and then you only have 2 life left, and that's the perfect turn to drop Marco. So then your opponent is like, alright, so Marco's on the field. So by that point, they will establish some bigger stuff, and they're like, okay, so if I swing, they're just going to block with Marco. Marco's coming back. We need to have an answer for Marco. Blue's doing really good with Eva into the Luffy, being able to bounce the Marco not just on play, but on when attacking. And that's honestly one of the best ways to out Marco, is just by putting them in the hand or just getting rid of them. If you destroy him by card effects, if you attack over him, he is coming back. And you always want your Marco to come back. If you have multiple Marcos up on the field, you are fine with letting one of them die, but you at least want to have one Marco in rotation. So that way you can always have that permanent blocker and also have that threat. Because with Moby Dick up, he does turn into a 7k attacker, especially if they have 1 life left, and you got Marco, another character, and your leader being able to swing for really high numbers, and then being able to drop something like your ace over here to be able to secure the game. Really, really strong. And so your additional copies of Moby Dick kind of turn into counters, because you can block with Marco. He is KO'd. You can pitch an extra copy of Moby Dick that you do have in your hand to be able to bring him back. Marco is exceptionally strong. Like I said, one of the best cards in the deck, but you don't want to drop them early. If you got multiples in hand, it is okay to use them for counter power. And so, like I said, you do want to hit them on the curve where you're on the 2 life remaining. Alright, so we got good old Jozu here. So Bandai's starting to get smart. They're making this pick, because Jozu here, he's got Donix 1. If you have 2 or less life, he gains Rush. So he's also a 2k counter. Bandai's trying to make us choose between having a character with Rush and a character with 2k counter. And traditionally, I thought Rush was broken, which Rush is very, very good. Very good keyword. But throwing a Rush on a 2k character is alright, I see what you're doing, Bandai. Ideally, you want to keep the Jozu in hand just for the 2k counter. But if your opponent, if you're able to attack throughout their life, it will burn through their blockers by attacking with other stuff. If you do have that 4 Dawn that you can commit, he will be 7k swinging with Moby Dick up on the field, as he does have Donix 1 to become a blocker. Very, very strong. Like I said, most of the time you do just keep the Jozu in hand. A lot of times, just having that 2k counter is better than having the Rusher. But like I said, there are plenty of situations where you do need that Rush for game. If you don't have Ace over here, Ace, then you can, just Jozu for game. And there's been plenty of times where I'm like, dang, I really wish I could drop both Ace and Jozu, but he costs 5 for a Rush, where Ace is 7. You just don't have enough Dawn to be able to do both of them. Alright, so this card right here. Where is my other copy of Squared? That's weird. There he is. Alright, up next, I am only playing 2 copies of Squared. So, once again, Squared has no counter power. Cards without counter power kind of suck, not gonna lie. But going back to Marco the Phoenix, he does have that option to discard any Whitebeard card. So you can discard, like, if you got multiple squads in hand. Because before I was testing multiple numbers, I was at 4, I was at 3. Eventually I did land down on the 2 because squad does have some really good synergy with a bunch of cards. Combination of him, Vista, Sequig, you can kill really, really large stuff. And you can also add a card from your life to your hand to trigger Moby Dick to get you down to that 1 card hand life or less to boost up all your guys. He'll also be 7,000 attacker under Moby Dick. He is really, really solid. And this is just another card that Blue loves to put back in your hand. I guess they really want you to force to take your own life. He also has that no counter, so it's really frustrating at times. But him sticking on board, like I said, having it 7k with Moby Dick up on the field, very, very strong. 4 copies of Vista right here. Vista is an exceptional brand new red staple. Like, it is 3-drop, 3k, 1k counter. On play, key up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. It's literally Robin's when attacking, but on play. With Moby Dick up, he's a 5k swinger. And just being able to come in and clear your opponent's really blockers. They're small blockers. So I have seen a decent amount of lists that have been playing slightly larger blockers. I do know in green, the new Nekomamushi that has the 4,000, just trying to dodge Vista. Just because Vista really, if you're trying to swing for game with like Whitebeard or some of your other characters, just being able to drop the Vista, kill it off, very, very strong. And combination of squad. So if your opponent does have a 7,000 attack character, squad do -4/2, and the Vista can come in and kill it. Really, really strong. Really, really good card. I foresee red decks playing this card for the foreseeable future. And a lot of lists I've seen haven't been playing old Robin here, and I'm not sure why. Because once again, like, the biggest threat is multiple blockers up on the field. Because it's hard to like consistently swing for damage. Because that's what you do. You want to do damage every single turn, and it's hard to do that if your opponent has blockers. And Robin just being on the field makes your opponent think, hey, I have to either get rid of her. If they're playing green, they're gonna try to tap her and swing over. If they're playing blue, they want to bounce her. She's one of those like pressure cards. Like, okay, if Robin's on the field, I can't drop my small blockers. And so once again, like I was saying with the Vista, Squad here, he can, present huge pressure. If you do have Robin already on the field, play Squad, -1 of your opponent's characters by 4,000, swing, pop it, and then they really want to like guard out of that because she's just going to be a 5k swing. So then they're going to have to take the 6k swing on the Whitebeard. Really, really good. And like I said, she just really gives you another early game attacker. Once again, most players know Whitebeard wants to go second. They make you go first. Turn 0, you either drop Chopper or you pass. And your second turn, going first, you can drop Robin. And your opponent's like, alright, cool. Because they really want to try to play a bit more defensively against Whitebeard, set up their own blockers, just because he is such a big swing where you have to commit cards on your hand to counter no matter what. And so Robin, like I said, just adds that additional pressure. Very, very good. Like I said, I'm not sure why I haven't seen a bunch of them play. I guess they just want more Whitebeards in hand for the Marco, but I've never had an issue of not having Whitebeard cards in. Good old Tony Chopper. He's our only other blocker that we're playing other than Marco the Phoenix. 1-drop, 1k blocker. He's just Tony Chopper. Card's broken, dude. Tony blocker. Really, like I said, if your opponent makes you go first and you get the one done, this is really the only play you can have. And so, I don't know. I'm conflicted on whether or not you save Chopper for later, or if you go in and like drop them early game. There's pros and cons to each. A lot of times you might just want to go in and block with something early so you can like save cards in your hand, but then at a later point you're like, okay, if I could drop like an additional Chopper right here, that'd be actually insane. So I don't know, I guess it's just matchup dependent. Very perspective on your hand, stuff like that, when you drop Chopper. And for the last character, I am playing 4 copies of Otama. Probably the best generic 2k red counter. She does have on play give when your opponent's character is minus 2,000 power during the turn. If you don't have the squad, then if you really need to KO one of your opponent's characters, you need to either reduce it by 2,000 so you can hit it with the Vista, the Robin, the seek wake, or if you're attempting to attack over something that's bigger, like a kid, just being able to on play -2 to it, then you can swing like your Whitebeard, stuff like that. Once again, just 2K counter. We are only playing the 4 with the 4 Otama and the 4 Jozu. I don't know, like I've never had an issue of not having counters in hand. We could probably potentially play more. I've seen some also play the Bartolomeo blocker. I've tested it. I just much rather have the chopper on the 1 drop than him on the 2. So this is actually like the best card in the deck. Old Moby Dick, whereas some people like me and my friends like to call him Money Dick, because this card's just money, dude. Really, you're just in the race to get down to 1 life or less, and that's honestly when the match begins. Honestly, that's when the game begins. Is when you're at that 1 life or less, and with Moby Dick be active. It says your turn. If you have 1 or less life cards, you're over Newgate, and all characters with a type, including Whitebeard, gain plus 2,000 power. So that makes your leader 8k during your turn, swinging, no Dawn committed. That is insane. A bunch of our other characters looked at, like Ace is being a 9,000 rusher. Whitebeard right here, he'll be if you're using his effect, he's gonna be a 14,000 swinging, popping stuff. Like also going back to like Otama Squad, they can bring stuff within the big Whitebeard's threshold to pop. But this card is just honestly, like I said, a game changer. Like once it hits the field, like I said, the ideal play for Whitebeard is to go second, drop this your very first turn, and if you can do that, you're in a fantastic position. And it kind of feels like you're playing catch up every turn after that you don't get to do that. Like if you're like a lot of times, I'll look at my opening hand. If I don't have Moby Dick, I will mulligan, just because I want to get to this card as fast as possible. That being said, you don't want 3 of them in your hand, and you're like, oh man, I have to keep it because Moby Dick's in hand. No, like I said, the additional copies you can discard off of Marco, and it does have really cool trigger to play this card, which is ironic because you never, this is for all you Whitebeard players, you never want to take a hit from the your opponent attacking. Never. You always want to counter out of it. The only life you want to take is off your own effects, whether it be leader or squad. Like I said, never take hits. Always counter out of it. If you think maybe I'll need some more cards in my hand, you will get there eventually. Counter out of it. Always, like if your opponent throws 1 on their lead, tries to swing 6, always counter out of it. So yeah. Moving on, we do got 4 copies of Seekway. KO up to 1 of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power less. If your leader has Whitebeard Pirates, Spot Twist, they're playing Whitebeard. So, once again, just tiny spot removal. For 1, you can KO 1 of your opponent's small blockers. Or if they do have like some support characters like Nami being able to give Dawn and stuff. Or they have like things you don't really want to waste attacking over, like Bonnie. Stuff like that. You can just come in. You can just come in with old Seekwake, kill it, swing will lead, life's happy. And also, as a trigger, give up to 1 of your opponent's leaders or characters minus 3,000 power during this turn. Like I said, never take a hit. So a lot of these like triggers, like Moby Dick is to play itself. Like this one has a trigger. You're never gonna get them off because you're never taking hits. That's the ideal strategy that you want to achieve with Whitebeard. You don't want to take a hit. You always want to counter out of everything. And so this is the only thing that I would change right here. I am playing 3 copies each of Radical Beam and the Guard Point. I do only own 3 copies of Radical Beam, or I would be playing 4, because this card is actually insane. It's for 1 cost, up to 1 of your characters earlier, you get 2,000. Then if you have 2 or less life cards, it gains additional 2,000. So it's a 1 cost 4,000 counter. Actually insane. Where the Guard Point is a 1 cost 3,000 counter. And the only times you are ever leaving Dawn up to counter with stuff is when you're at the end game. Whenever you hit that 1 life or less, whenever it's time to buckle down and really just, like I said, that's when the real game begins. Is when you hit that 1 life or less threshold. Moby Dick's triggered. You're really swinging you're either swinging face on your opponent's leader or you're clearing their board. And so usually they'll try to like load up the Dawn under something, trying to swing really big into your leader, and just for one, being able to make him 10,000 is just absolutely insane. Like I said, this is one of the few things that I would change to my current list. Replace the third guard point with another radical beam, and maybe additional 2k counters, because radical beam is just super duper good, and it's really hard to like want to, because even though you do have like multiple of these, like you could have them in your hand, but if you don't leave multiple Dawn up, this kind of turns into a card that doesn't have counter, even though it is a counter. But if you don't have Dawn active, it's just doesn't have counter power. So I have been thinking about adding the fourth radical beam and dropping the remainder two for more 2k characters. So yeah, that's the, like I said, guard point's still good. I still really like guard point. It's just there are better cards that you can utilize. Like I said, a fourth radical beam and maybe two more 2k counters, or if you want to play the Bartolomeo blocker, it's completely up to you. Like I said earlier, key cards of the deck. The more standout ones are going to be Marco, Jozu. I mean, it's all the brand new cards. These are all going to be like the really good cards. These are, like I said, the ones that like help you achieve like your win condition. You do have the Moby Dick up on the field. All these characters become absolutely huge, including your vanillas and your big Whitebeard. I know this isn't supposed to be like an exact representation of like the board, but these are like all your like honestly attackers. These two are going to be honorary attackers because a lot of times you're only attacking with them when you need to. And then Squad, wherever Squad's at. And then I'll pull Robin aside as well. So, like I said, she's just going here, the honorary attacker. She's very good, but she's more of a pressure tool. A lot of times you don't even attack with Robin. You'll just leave her up on the field. And Squad can really bring, once again, stuff into the range to be sniped with Robin, Vista, and Big Whitebeard alongside the Seaquake. So you will be attacking with them. You will be 7k once you're in there. But like I said, I am only playing two of them. Is the cards I play the least amount in the deck. So he will be attacker once he hits the field. It's just he doesn't really hit the field as much as some of these other characters. Having your vanillas at 8k, 9k respective under Moby Dick. Vistas within swinging range but no Dawn committed. Ace being 9k swing with rush, just absolutely huge. So, like I said earlier, it's really aggressive. The deck wants to get down to that in-game status, and which is the one life or less. Cards that are exceptionally good against this deck. I did mention earlier the blue Luffy played inside of Eva. Just being able to play the Eva, play the Luffy, bounce cards like Marco here to your hand. So then on the crackback, I have to like play the Marco again. And then the Luffy can just, when attacking, bounce it. So it's kind of like useless. I'd rather keep it in hand for a counter power. But at that point, he can also get the double strike. And so whenever you're being forced to take life every turn off your leader, double striker coming at you is really threatening. And also a lot of blockers. Kinemon, I tested a decent amount against Kinemon, and just traditional Green Kid. That kind of like control aspect of it's really good. The new Yamato just being able to on play suspend both your big vanillas and then attack over them with leader is very annoying. It's very good, especially if you're able to control like the character aspect, and I'm being forced to attack with leader only each turn, and you're able to maintain blockers or counter out of it. Usually not counter out of it, but maintaining blockers on the field. That's really one like the best way to stall out against Whitebeard. Like I said, green and blue, those two specifically, I have found to be really good playing against. Purple, I've had no problem with purple. Um, like if 10 drop or 9 drop Kaido comes down, pops Marco, he comes back. Like I just I'm taking my own life anyway. Them trying to burn off Kaido skill just doesn't come up if you're playing Magellan or King. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think of other. Black is a very interesting one because it does have a bunch of control aspects. I feel like a bunch of the more like controllier decks are definitely going to be better because they're just able to once again like control the board, and the new Borsellino not being able to be destroyed by card effects and him being 6k during the punch turn. So if I am at a swing with him with Odon, that's just 1k counter. I am protecting him from the card effects, so I can't pop him. If I did reduce his DP off something like Sword or Utama and reduce it, I can't pop them. So very good. Trying to think what else. So, yeah, once again, it's really like the control decks that have a really better matchup going into this. But once again, I don't think any deck has a really good matchup going into Whitebeard. Once again, it's going to be one of the best decks of the format, and continuing into the third set, it's going to be an absolutely insane deck. They get a ton more support. The deck's just going to be really, really good. So if you've been thinking about playing one of the best decks within the One Piece card game, Whitebeard, I hope this list inspires you. I absolutely love red. You guys already know red best deck, baby. I played many matches with this. I've changed my list. I've added things here. At first I wasn't playing a big Whitebeard race, and then later I was playing like 4 ace, and then I took it down, and I was playing like 4 Whitebeard. I've tried a bunch of different combinations of cards. Like I said, I do need to get a 4th Radical Beam, and that's going to be one of the few things I do want to change within the current list, within the OP02 format. I have been thinking about trying out the promo ace, the one that does have double strike, but once again, he doesn't have counter power, and you really want to try to eliminate the majority of cards within your deck that don't have counter power, because you really want, once again, I can't stress how important the end game of one lesser life with Moby Dick live, and you're really just buckling, and you're leaving 1 to 2 Dawn standing for your Radical Beams, for your guard points. You got like 10 plus cards in hand. You're just you're sitting and you buckle the seatbelt, and you're just waiting for your opponent to either try to like win on the crackback, which is very hard for them to do, especially if you got like Marco's up on the field. He's coming back. That's going to guarantee you 2 swings with both Marco and leader. You do have your rushers with your Jozu and your ace. A very, very strong deck. Very good deck. That's all I can say. It's a very good deck. So yeah, so this has been my in-depth discussion on Whitebeard. I do absolutely love this deck. This deck is crazy. Old Daddy Whitebeard up here. Honestly, I don't want to say he's the best leader in the game, but he's one of them. He's just one of the most standout leaders. Him and like Charlotte Kid, and they're just very few that are just like, there's a bunch of good leaders, but there's like few like S tier leaders where they just stand out above the rest of them. He's one of them, that 6k 6 life threshold. So once again, I am Noah from the DigiBros. If you enjoyed this Whitebeard Edward Newgate deck profile discussion, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's going to be a ton of One Piece card games, especially OP02 format stuff coming within the next couple weeks. Absolutely love this deck, absolutely love this game. So yeah, once again, I will see you guys later.